Alright, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. So, the government second speaker claims that our constitutional court change in the minimum age requirement for presidential elections was proof of manipulations, especially since Gibran Rakabuming was one of the candidates and has a family relations to the Chief Justice Anwar Usman. So, let me ask you a question. If it truly a sign of a dead democracy, would the system allowed it from the start that the Chief Justice was dismissed 1 week later from his positions for ethical violations? So let me remind you again that on 7 November, the Chief Justice Anwar Usman was being dismissed, not just criticized, not just given a warning, but he is dismissed and disgraced from his positions for ethical violations. So that is not a behavior of a dead democracy. That is a behavior of a democracy that is still alive, not being compromised. That is accountability in its action. So democracy does not demand perfections. It demands for a mechanism to correct mistakes when it happens. And in this case, those mechanisms works very well. So the system caught the flaws, people responded, justice was served. So, ladies and gentlemen, forgive us if we don't accept fear-mongering statement dressed up as a fact in this debate. Next, the honorable member claims also that the political dynasties are breaking our democracy. They claim that our family ties is tearing or destroying apart our system. But let me ask you the questions again. Where is the evidence? Where is the evidence that these so-called dynasties are breaking are silencing our voices? So, let me remind you again that on our last elections in Indonesia, there are many candidates coming from various backgrounds. There are independent, media thriving and developing. There are many society or people participating actively on our democratic party. Well, if the system were truly broken, would that kind of action is happening on a country that is been compromised? The democracy has been compromised. See, so dynasty may influence access to politics, but it does not guarantee any victory. Look at many political family that is lost despite their family names. For example, Agus Harimurti Yudhoyono, you are familiar with it, right? So he is a son of our former president Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono. And in Jakarta governor elections in 2017, he lost to Ahok despite major parties are backing him up. This shows that voters are still making choices, not just following bloodlines. See, so before government team justify family connections as corruption, let me remind you that having famous and influential family does not guarantee you win in these elections. And lastly, the honorable member also concludes with a metaphor: if the roots are rotten, then the trunk and fruit must also be rotten. With all due respect, that is an emotional appeal, not a logical argument. See, there are flaws, there are mistakes, there are controversies, but 1 weak branches doesn't mean that the whole tree is dead. So just because one part of the system showed weakness doesn't mean that the whole system is broken. That is actually our part to keep reminding or keep watching the system evolve. So let me state again that democracy is dynamic, and in Indonesia, I believe it is still alive. Democracy is learning and growing. So while the government team leans on emotional appeal and sweeping statement, our team provides more facts, context, and clarity. So at the end of this debate, I believe that our team must win this debate. Thank you and have a good day, ladies and gentlemen.